I have no time for games.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. Welcome to another video. So today I'd like to talk about 10 decks, just 10 decks that are going to be actually playable, possibly viable after the patch hits next week. The reason why I decided to do this video is because a lot of people are wondering what decks are going to be good, what decks are going to be bad, whatever the case may be, and I feel like this is a good way to kind of explain. This isn't necessarily putting where the meta is going to be or where the meta is going, but this is pretty much letting you understand how oppressive some of these cards were and some cool possibilities that are going to be available that I'm sure are going to be really good options for a lot of reasons once the patch hits. So how did I come up with these decks? How did I come up with these analyses, right? Well, let's look at the nerfs and what they did, right? So there's no more patches. No more patches means that there's no more heavy turn 1 and 3 swing turns, right? There's no more crazy board states from every single deck that you play that has an amazing turn 1 or turn 2 or turn 3 play. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule because there are some decks who have some very powerful early game cards. For example, Paladin has Enter the Jungle, which is a very strong turn 1 play. We have the Hunter has the cats, I forgot they're called, the 2 cats on turn 1 that play. But the thing about it is these 2 Paladins don't come with a hero power that innately oppresses you like Rogue, which made patches really crazy in Rogue because on top of having a charge minion that can grab tempo from you early, he can come out, pick out, dagger up, and just continue snowballing tempo from there. But because there's no more patches, means that there's really and no more swing turns. On top of that, you saw Hunters and Paladins started running patches with their crazy 1-drops, which means that their likelihood of drawing one or the other doubled, essentially, right? Because they added an additional 2 crazy cards in the early game. So there'll be no more giant turn 1 and 3 swings, which means that the survivability of every deck in the game once this nerf goes through goes up the roof. The next thing is that there's no more 5/5 creepers on turn 3 to 5. Turn creeper, a 5/5/0 mana on top of doing other plays was such an insane tempo swing. Even a 2/5 is a good tempo swing when it gets nerfed, but when it was a 5/5, it just being able to do your turn, you drop 2 taunts, whatever, and a 5/5 behind it, right? That swing was crazy. It was one of the main reasons why Shamans got pushed out, because Shamans couldn't even devolve that board, right? Shamans would have to look at a Corridor Creeper and say, if I devolve that, it's just probably going to get worse. It's going to turn into a Boulder Fist Ogre, right? I'm just doing worse for myself. And it completely pushed Shaman out of the metagame. On top of that, when it got dropped behind a turn 6 play, because imagine Corridor Creeper, a 5/5 is the stats of like a 4 to 5 mana card, right? On average, a 5 mana card, roughly. Let's say 4 to be fair. So let's say you get your Corridor Creeper activated on your turn 4, or even your turn 5 at 0 mana, right? Let's just say for turn 5. You play 5 mana worth of stuff plus a Corridor Creeper. That's just 10 mana worth of stuff just vomited on the board that your opponent has to deal with. And they just, that kind of swing, just most of the time, you couldn't recover from that. And now Bone Mare at turn 8 means that there's no more pressure on the turn 8 on the turn 7 slot, which is very important because if you look through the turn 7 roster, there aren't many good turn 7 plays. The only 2 good turn 7 plays was Bone Mare and, as weird as it sounded, Corridor Creeper. They were the only cards that at turn 7 that you just kind of had. If you top decked it, you could play it, right? The problem with Bone Mare being at turn 8, there's a massive problem, especially going into something like what we believe is going to be a Warlock meta, because Warlocks on turn 8 have Twisting Nether. And if Warlocks go the control variant, Bone Mare is virtually unplayable. Because the second you try to make a Bone Mare turn, it's going to get destroyed. The next thing is that Psychic Scream turns. You know, Psychic Scream turns are going to be exceptionally terrible for Bone Mare because, especially if your priest opponent is going first, they're going to hit Psychic Scream before you. So if they hit Psychic Scream, they hold it, you Bone Mare, they Psychic Scream it, you know, you're really out of options at that point. Especially if you're on, you know, being a tempo deck, you're on a clock, right? You're trying to out tempo your opponent and beat your opponent. Versus a control deck, they're trying to stall you out to get to their pieces that they need. Putting Bone Mare at 8 gives them a whole nother turn to get to the pieces that they need. That's a bit problematic. I mean, it hurts, but it is what it is. The next nerf that happened was, back to talk about it again, was Rods of the Chained. Rods of the Chained was the OTK swing from Rods of the Chained was what made this card so oppressive, right? It wasn't the fact that Anduin destroyed everything on the field, which I really think is really, 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 really overtuned for how strong his hero power is. But I digress. Anduin coming out and destroying all 5 or greaters is one thing. The hero power reset is a whole nother beast. You see, the state that it was basically Raza Anduin into OTK. That was the idea behind Combo Priest back then. Now, after the nerf, it's pretty much gonna be, they can't rely on killing you in one turn, right? So they can't just put every draw card and its mother into the deck. It's not gonna happen like that anymore. Now the deck will be viable, but they're going to have to cut a lot of draw because in its current state, it can't compete with other control decks because it's gonna deck out first, right? It's gonna go into fatigue, and it doesn't have a combo to guarantee its victory anymore. That's not bad. It just means that now they're gonna have to play more of a value game, right? They're gonna have to more depend on getting Raza and Anduin, more controlling your opponent, which is how control decks should be run. You know, it shouldn't be, you know, they control you just to OTK you. So, with this being said, what are the expectations of the upcoming situation, right? So the dynamic before was priests destroyed everything, right? They dominated everything. The only matchups that were kind of iffy were some aggro matchups, Spiteful Summoner Priest and Iffy and Warlock and Druid. The only reason why Druid even did well is because they have so much armor gain, they have so much survivability that it just didn't matter. You know, they would just wall, they build a wall, build a wall, build a wall, build a wall. You couldn't just, they gained so much, they made builds, they made so much armor that it was just 41 or whatever damage the priest could do was just irrelevant. You know, 41 would be breaking his armor total at that point. And so Priest just dominated the ladder. They dominated it. And therefore, it put a dynamic where Priest destroyed everything, then Warlocks would beat anything else except for Priests. And everybody else that weren't Warlocks were running an extremely aggressive package to kill the Priest before they got to Raza Anduin, or kill the Warlock before they got to Cabal Lackey, Dark Pact. And this is what the meta devolved into, right? It literally devolved into a situation where everybody's playing aggro to just, if they can't afford or don't feel like playing Razaka's Priest or Warlocks, they just built the most aggressive package they possibly could that just completely demolishes their opponent by turn 4 or 5. You know, that's just the goal. That was their whole strategy, their goal, their being, destroy your opponent because that is the only way you can win. And that's the only deck you can play. Now, with the new dynamic, um, the thing is that Raza will now be in a situation where they can't OTK you. Warlocks are going to be on top. But the thing about Warlocks that's great about them being on top that not a lot of people are talking about is the fact that, you know, even though Warlocks have a lot of healing right now and a lot of taunts and a lot of defensives, a lot of defensives to get through. The problem is that, you know, they don't the only OTK combo they really have is the cube combo. And that being said, the cube combo is not as easy as just drawing Raza, drawing Anduin on turn 5 and 8. If you pressure a Warlock, they are gonna have to do something about it. They aren't guaranteed the demons, the 5/7 demon out of the deck every time, unless they're not running Void Lords, which means they're not running a defensive package. And which is why a lot of people don't feel like Q-Block's going to be prevalent, right? It's just, it's a great deck. Q-Block's an excellent deck, but you can't really target, you know, it's not like Razakus, Anduin, Priest, where you can target the exact cards you didn't execute the exact combo. You can't target. There's RNG involved. You know, you can lose some games because you're dying, you Dark Pact Lackey, and you pull out a Doom Guard. Game is over, right? You're done. You know, you're just going to get beat in the face some more, and you're going to get destroyed. You know, it's going to pull out some glorious OTKs, but whatever. Everybody believes that now that all these aggressive tools have been nerfed and this aggressive situation has been nerfed, that control lock will be the lock to dominate. And that's a good thing in a way, because decks can handle control lock. It just means that things are going to have to change. So enough rambling. Let's get into a list of 10 decks that are going to increase in popularity and are going to do well in the upcoming meta. So first off, we have Shamans with Devolve. So this sounds crazy, and I know, I understand. Everybody's like, Shamans, what the hell? Da-da-da. Click off the video. We don't like this guy. This guy's insane. So I'm not saying Shamans are going to be good, right? Shamans suffer from a bigger problem than just the nerfs that are coming. You know, the nerfs that are coming do not address Shamans. In fact, they probably hurt them a little bit more than help them, because, you know, now that Bone Mare's turn 8 and Creeper is 7, been nerfed at 7, not even Creeper is a guarantee, because the deliciousness about Shamans were the 8 pool just was beautiful. You know, there was pretty much everything in the 8 pool was delicious to them, you know. But now if they evolve into an 8 drop, they can evolve into a Bone Mare. Like that is a possibility after the patch, and that hurts their evolve capabilities. But what I want to talk about is their devolve, right? If Warlocks become a strong force in the meta, it is very possible that a strong Shaman list with Devolve can definitely do decent versus Warlocks, Devolve and Bloodlusts, right? So a form of a token list can do very well. Because you see, the problem with Shamans before was the fact that, you know, Patches was everywhere, and Patches pretty much shut down totems on his own, right? He especially if he came on South Sea Captain, he would just destroy totems, and he would just, and on top of that, people just had crazy, insane power swings, and, you know, while they're sitting here trying to get their wait for their power swing turn, which is like turn 6 or something, like Doppelganger to evolve or Creeper into multiple evolutions. But Shaman's other biggest issue is the fact that they have no good card draw. Manatide Totem is terrible. Visions is terrible, and they don't have anything else, right? They, unlike every other class in the game, they don't have a reliable way to dig. You know, they don't have a way that they can just dig into their deck to get more of to get the things that they need, the tools that they require to defeat their opponent. And, you know, you could say Hunter suffers from the same problem too, but their hero power pushes towards a win condition, right? Their hero power, so they can like weave in hero powers while dropping minions to give them card draw. It's essentially card draw, right? Because you let's say you're at 4 mana, you drop one of your 2 drops, and you hero power it in. You know, instead of dropping both 2 drops in your hand, draw one 2 drop. You can hero power in to just juice out that damage. That's essentially the same as drawing one card. Shamans don't have that option. If they have if they have 2 2 drops in their hand, it's turn 4. They drop 1 minion. What are they gonna do? Hero power with a totem, right? A totem doesn't really do much. I mean, yet some totems have fringe effects, but it's completely random. You can't choose the one you need every time you hero power. So that's the real issue with shamans right now. But with the patch, the game's gonna be a little bit slower, so which means that they're gonna get a bit of a boost from this. But it doesn't mean they're gonna be great, but it means that they're definitely gonna be much more viable if played well with devolve, especially with druids and warlocks still being prevalent right now. So the next deck that I want to put is not even. This is the only one that's not even like one deck. This is just a class. Period is going to be disgusting, and that is druid. Druids really benefit from these situations. The druid situation right now was they ramp, win the game, and the only thing keeping them in check was the fact that a lot of these aggressive decks had strong tools or tempo tools to break through their crazy board states, especially Corridor Creeper. Corridor Creeper was essential in handling spreading plague situations. It dropped, and when you dropped it early, it killed a plague on its own. You can drop it another big minion to break through plagues. When you kill plague, you can drop it to keep on pushing through plague, spreading plague, and that was what kept druids in check. Patches in the early game to break them down, to stop them from wanting to ramp every single turn, to force them into a situation where they have to do something about this board state. That's no longer a thing. No bone marrow anymore. Now, after they spreading plague, you can't just start bone marrying things to breaking through the wall. So this means that and that's all of Druid's toolkit, right? No matter what they're running, they run spreading plague, they run ramp. That's just what they do, unless they're aggro. But even if they're aggro, they're still benefited from the patch because they don't care about Bone Mare being a 2/5 really. Bone Mare a 5/5 was a bonus to them. They care about Bone Mare costing 0. That way they can do it behind living mana walls. They can buff it. They can do whatever they want. The attack doesn't matter to a druid, to aggro druid. So just druids all across the board are going to be crazy right now. They're going to be really good, and I think that people are not talking about how dangerous they are enough. So the next archetype I want to talk about is the Elemental Rogue. So a lot of people think Tempo is going to be dead. If you think Tempo Rogue's going to be dead, you don't play Tempo Rogue, right? I've been playing Rogue the entire time this game's came out. I know Rogue. I love Rogue. I love everything Rogue stands for. I have over 2,000 games with the Rogue easily. This class is my favorite, and I can tell you this much: if you for some reason thought Tempo Rogue was going to be dead, it's because you just don't play Rogue. That's just it. You don't play Rogue. Tempo Rogue is not there's nowhere, and it's not like in Raza Priest was called Raza Priest. Tempo Rogue is called Tempo Rogue. It's not called Keleseth Rogue. It's not called Bone Mare Rogue. It's not called Creeper Rogue. These hits to Tempo Rogue do nothing, right? They don't really affect Tempo Rogue because they just need tempo tools to make themselves successful and win. They win through tempo, right? And they have some of the best tempo tools in the game. SI7 agents, saps, Valspine Slayers, all these crazy tools. So the deck I want to talk about is Elemental Rogue. Now, granted, you can still play Tempo Rogue. You may have to drop Keleseth for saps if there's too many warlocks or something like that. But there will be a Tempo Rogue list that will be created. But my Tempo Rogue list I want to talk about right now is the Elemental Rogue package. Because there are no good 7 drops at the moment to make Tempo Rogue really curve out. However, Blaze Caller is an amazing 7-drop. It's a Firelance Portal on steroids, right? It's basically a guaranteed 5 damage, boom, blow something up, and have a 6/6 body on the board, you know? And on top of that, they also got another elemental last patch. I forgot his name. It's the 4/4 tagger that every time a weapon gets destroyed, he gets +1/+1. And a combination, and I did play a little bit of Temple Elemental Rogue. The problem that I was having was that they had no way to combat patches, because it has strong turns, 1, 2, 3. It has stronger turn drops than the original Temple Rogue did. The problem is that the old Temple Rogue with Swashbuckler and Saucy Captains just swarmed the board so heavily. If you weren't running that package, you just couldn't survive with Quarter Creeper and Patches and Saucy Captains, because your opponent would just straight up tempo you. They would just straight up out tempo you before you start really getting into your minions. Now that the metagame has dialed back a bit, I believe Elemental Rogue's going to do really well. So if you have these cards, I suggest you keep them and try them when it comes out. The next deck I want to talk about is something that I've been playtesting to great effect, actually. It's Elemental Value Mage. So this is my list. I've been trying this list a couple times, and it's really good. It's really strong. Really strong. The problem, once again, is that, the fact that Quarter Creepers and early game patches just absolutely shut this deck out. You don't have much time to, go into your elemental combos when there's giant 5/5s with huge board states staring you down, trying to kill you. It's just any game that my opponent did not get a Quarter Creeper out early enough, I won. But if they got 1 or 2 Quarter Creepers out within the first couple turns, I lost. No questions. Every time. It was something you couldn't deal with. And the fact that, Quarter Creepers probably can be pulled out after the patch means that you're not forced to run Quarter Creepers anymore. So the Value Mage is going to be really good, I believe, come the next patch. Maybe not tier 1, but definitely tier 2. The next deck that I want to talk about is Secret Hunter. Secret Hunter is a deck that I think we all forgot about how crazy it was. The requirement for the secrets was absolutely disgusting. The fact that you only need to play 1 secret to upgrade the Spellstone. A fully upgraded Spellstone from a Warlock on turn 5 is absolutely oppressive. It is a 5 mana, 12/12 stats on the board spread across 4 minions. It's crazy. And once again, the only thing that was really pushing them out was just too much early game. Just pretty much stopping them from getting to their win condition. 2 months ago, I hit Legend with a Hunter list, and my Hunter list, basically the only reason why I hit Legend, I normally hit Legend every month, but the only reason I hit Legend that month, 2 months ago with Hunter, was because there was a surgence of Paladin, aggro Paladin all over the ladder. It was insane. So I literally just put in 2 explosive traps, 2 explosive traps, Rexar, and I forgot what other. 2 explosive traps, Rexar, 2 wandering monsters, and it just demolished everybody. They couldn't handle it. I would just secret, drop putricide secret, and then just turn 5, swarm the board and just destroy my opponent. There was nothing most of them could do. It was disgusting, and I think I teched in like 2 Glocker crawlers. It was just straight up. I hate paladins. I hate Paladin Hunter is what I called it, pretty much, and it was disgusting. And this deck is really going to be a lot better once the patch hits. It's going to be really good. because it's not gonna get blown out anymore, and it's gonna be crazy. So the next deck I want to talk about is Kingsbane Rogue. So Kingsbane Rogue's been seeing a little bit of surgence, and while we're talking about Kingsbane Rogue, we'll go ahead and toss in Quest Rogue as well, because they fall underneath the same vein, right? Kingsbane and Quest Rogue are both mill decks that relied on time. Now they have time. Do they have enough time? No, I don't think so. Aggressive decks are still going to destroy these two decks. They're still going to get, overwhelmed, but it's not going to be as bad as it was before, right? And the problem with Kingsbane Rogue before was people swarm the field, and Kingsbane Rogue just doesn't have an answer. Blade Flurry got nerfed to 4. They don't have an answer. They cannot answer these board states, and this patch doesn't really help that. They're still not going to be able to answer these board states, and the same goes for Quest Rogue as well. They're just not going to be able to answer these board states. Now, the problem between Kingsbane Rogue and Quest Rogue is that Quest Rogue is going to be significantly better, because Quest Rogue really destroys control warlocks, right? Once you finish that quest, that warlock has to deal with a 5/5 on board every single turn. Every card in your deck is a 5/5. That's too much to handle for some. That's way too much to handle, and that's gonna be a problem. The next thing is the next rogue deck moving along here is going to be Miracle Rogue. Miracle Rogue receives a huge buff from this patch, right? This is Miracle Rogue's time to shine. Miracle Rogue does exceptionally well versus Priest, and it does exceptionally well versus any form of control warlock. The variants I'm talking about are the variants with the Nerubian Weaver, I believe his name is, the 4/4 that puts a bunch of 4/4s in your deck that when you draw them, you summon them. This deck is going to be really good, to great effect come this next patch, because Miracle Rogue was already doing well. It's been under the radar good. I on the first day I grinded Miracle Rogue easily to rank 10, almost rank 5 in only a few hours of gameplay, and it's going to be even stronger, right? It suffers from the fact that they don't have an answer for Corridor Creeper right now. That is pretty much what shut Miracle Rogue out of the scene. When you drop a quarter, Miracle Rogue doesn't really run a bunch of big target removals. They have 2 Phantom Knives and a lot of single target removals they can tech in. But once you get in a situation where you need to, how do I put this? Stop a Quarter Creeper. You have to do something insane. You have to either sap it or Fan of Knives and to eviscerate it, and this was a lot of damage, right? You gave up a lot of damage to deal with that deck, and that really hurt your win condition on top of that. So Miracle Rogue is going to be getting an amazing buff off of this. And next we're going to be talking about both aggro paladins, right? We'll just combine them as one. They do exactly the same thing, right? All they're losing is Quarter Creeper. They don't care about Quarter Creeper. Murloc Paladins can run Kings just as effective as Quarter Creeper, or they can run Silence to break through Warlocks. They can tech and silence depending on where you're at or what rating or what you're fighting today. These 2 Quarter Creepers being gone means nothing. Even now they can tech in Finges. Now they can guarantee tech in Finges, right, if need be, to play the Finja package, right? With Quarter Creeper gone, it doesn't affect them. They're not hit by this. The fact, I hate when people say, well, what are they going to do? They don't have Quarter Creeper. They never needed Quarter Creeper. They didn't care about Quarter Creeper. Even the aggro variant didn't care about Quarter Creeper, right? They can run Dino Size if they need to. I mean, granted, that's an 8 mana card, but I mean, it's not a bad card, right? Especially if you're flooding the boards with 1/1 almost every other turn. They have Vile Spine Cleaver, stuff like that. So Aggro Paladin is going to be one of the most prevalent decks. And next up we have the Burn Mage. So the Burn Mage, I don't think people understand that Burn Mage was forced to run Corridor Creeper to compete. There was no card that really dealt with, competing with Corridor Creeper other than Corridor Creeper. Burn Mage had to play it. They didn't want to. They had to. Quarter Creeper being nerfed means they don't have to anymore, which means they can dedicate 2 mana slots to burn. That is insane. 2 slots to burn is crazy good, right? They can even put in Hydras if they want to now. Now they can go back to the builds where they run, the 5 mana 8/8 on top of running all of their removal and their burns. And now they don't have to worry about Fireball and Creepers anymore on turn 4 to get them off their board. They are going to be insane right now. Burn Mage is going to be really good. Really, 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 really good. And last but not least, I want to talk about the number 1 deck, or decks in this case, that will be really prevalent after the patch. And that is the Spiteful package decks. Yes, Spiteful Summoner. So, this is what I see about Spiteful Summoner. And I will say this. I feel like Spiteful Summoner is hidden broken, right? It's a 6 mana 4/4 that you can manipulate your deck to summon anything. Like, anything. Anything. It's disgusting, the things this thing can summon. And the thing that was stopping Spiteful Summoner decks before was just the same thing that was stopping everything else. Getting to turn 6 used to be a mission, right? You were lucky to make it to turn 6 and be alive enough to summon a Spiteful Summoner. And this doesn't even mean to say you lost at turn 6. Because when you hit the concede button isn't when you lost the game. You may have lost when that person dropped Quarter Creeper on turn 3 and you were just trying to play it out. But the swing was so massive you just couldn't recover. And this was the issue the Spiteful Summoner decks were running into. Granted, they were still doing well. They were still doing very well. But the real problem is that they had, some of them had trouble making it to turn 6. It wasn't easy. It just wasn't, especially Spiteful Summoner Priest, it wasn't easy. But once they made it to turn 6, they snowballed out of control. It was insane what they did once they got there. Now, there's nothing holding them back. There's nothing stopping them from being great. And they're going to snowball games like you've never seen before. This card was already getting a resurgence before, but it's about to get a huge resurgence now that all these early game aggression turns between 1 and 7 have been sort of removed. So, there's Spiteful Druid that guarantees 10 drops with Ultimate Infestation, which is a broken card. There's Spiteful Warlocks that get 8 drops out of Twisting Nether. There's Spiteful Paladins, which gets big 8 drops off Dino Size, plus they're running Dino Size. And that's a deck that I really loved playing. And I played it in Legend to probably great effect. I was able to maintain at least within the 1,000 bracket when I played it. Within 1,000. That's still technically Dumpster Legend, but I never got pushed down with that exact deck only. I've never been pushed down to 2,000-3,000, which I get pushed through 2,000-3,000 when I troll, and then I have to climb back out with real decks to 1,000 every single time just to not feel bad about myself. But the Spiteful package is really strong. It's really strong. And the only deck that ran it back then was Priest, because pretty much the Temple Priest package was so disgustingly good, right? It was come on. Their package is Mind Control and Amber. Their package is an 8/8 that summons big minions. So you Spiteful Summoner into a random 8/8, then you draw it to summon up even bigger 8/8, even an even bigger 8 drop, 8 to 10 or whatever drop you get out of the Ember. And on top of that, their other one was Mind Control. So they hit with Spiteful Summoner to summon a 10/10, then they draw it to take your biggest minion on the board. right? It was it's a deck that literally step by step gets worse every single turn for your opponent. You know, every turn that deck doesn't die, your opponent is just sweating, right? Because then they're dealing with bone mirrors and they're dealing with so many threats, right? I mean, you probably won't be dealing with bone mirrors anymore because that's probably too high on the curve. It competes with Amber, but you're still going to be dealing with Cobalt Scalebanes. And then on top of that, they have so much value through Draconoid Operatives and the little girl that finds a dragon and stuff like that. And, you know, that's the only reason why this deck was even played. It was only played in Priest. But now that all these aggressive tools have been reduced, it's going to be really good. Really good. A card in general to play with a multitude of other decks, and there will be experimenting going on, I believe, once the patch hits. So these are my thoughts. I know this went on for a bit. I just felt like there were 10 really cool decks or deck concepts that I kind of wanted to talk about and discuss with you guys. That's pretty much it on my end. Don't forget, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Leave a message down below based on how you feel about maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you think that I'm an idiot and all of these decks are wrong and every choice I made is wrong. Please let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear it, and I'd love to know why you think that way. But other than that, I'll see you guys tomorrow.